Oh, right. We are back on Morning Line, everyone. Our attorney with us this morning, malpractice expert Clint Kelly, talking about the pandemic and more. And Clint, just want to remind folks, with this all going on, obviously you've remained busy. You've got cases coming on with regard to some of the things in nursing homes and with the pandemic. But remind folks, I mean, malpractice is still occurring out there, and what people need to know about whether they want to call in and ask a question.
Yeah. The elective procedures began a couple of weeks ago in Nashville and statewide full tilt. So, the question I have, and I don't have any knowledge of this, I'm just speculating, but I would presume that there were a lot of surgeries that were backlogged that are now going to have to be, the schedule is going to have to be accelerated in order to have these people get their surgeries done. So, if you think of an assembly line, it's going to be running faster and faster to try to catch up with the demand. And inevitably, in that situation, there are going to be mistakes made. It happens. And the question is, how bad are those mistakes? And so if someone gets themselves badly injured as a result of a medical procedure, whether it's in the clinic or in a hospital, you've got 1 year in which to file or serve pre-suit notice and bring an action. And as I've told you before, medical malpractice is a major medical mistake that produces a major medical injury, an amputation, loss of eyesight, brain damage, paralysis, death, serious injuries that compromise patients' ability to earn a living or create tremendous medical bills they can't pay, and serious permanent impairment, because you don't want to bring a claim where there's only temporary damages and the patient ultimately recovers, because juries don't give money in those cases.
Standard of care, 1 year statute of limitations, and it continues. So the number's on the screen, 737-7587. If you have a question or comment with regard to the nursing homes or some of these cases or something you've experienced, now's your chance with Clint. And Clint, our first caller this morning, someone you know. We have Joe liking to start things off for us this morning. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning,
hey.
Nick and Mr. Kelly.
Hi, Joe.
This thing with the Gallatin nursing home, just speaking of that particular one, the deaths and stuff, and they moved them out, moved them back in, and it's happened more than once. It happened several times, the same problem. So they wasn't correcting their problem. And the last thing I'll say is, if he would check, and Mr. Kelly knows this, I'm sure, and he can't say it, but I can. The people that owns these nursing homes, if you check back far enough, you'll find out that a lot of them are doctors and legislators and people like in politics. So that's the reason they put the brakes on anything where you can collect from these people. Well, you've already got a limit put on what you can collect. So they're going to take care of themselves, and they're going to take care of their money. That's all I got to say about it.
Thank you, Joe. What do you think, Clint?
Oh, Joe's right. He's absolutely right. We've got more doctors in the legislature than we've ever had. And there are, of course, a number of people who are strong lobbyists for the healthcare industry, and they've got high friends in high places, including the governor, for that matter. Governor's very friendly to doing anything he can to shut down lawsuits. In fact, the tort reform effort that passed in 2011 that limited lawsuits, Bill Lee spearheaded the effort. So he is a friend of tort reform, and any measure that can be brought that will limit lawsuits, Governor Lee's going to be standing right behind cheering them on. That's one of the principal disagreements I have with our governor. But in any event, it is right now, the way the legislature looks, it really doesn't look like Tennessee. Nick, that's the truth. Most people, I think, public opinion is let the courts decide these cases. Don't let the legislature and government tell people when and whether they can file lawsuits.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, what hit home for me is what you said earlier about just the folks in these nursing homes. They can't leave. They're the most vulnerable among us. And the truth is, Clint, Joe mentioned it, the Gallatin facility reopened and moved people back in fairly quick. Nothing illegal there. They're right to do. I can tell you this.
Sure.
If I had a family member in that facility, and if I had the means, they would not still be there. There's no way I would have let them go back. The reason this is happening, I think, is because many of these seniors, unfortunately, have nowhere else to go. As you well know, finding qualified facilities that have open beds and all of this, because that was kind of where I was scratching my head. Okay, I assume we haven't heard much since. Maybe they've got their act together and things are fine there now, and that may well be the case. But boy, the way they went back in so quickly, I was like, gosh, and I'm thinking, after they got out of the hospital, did they have no place else to go? Because I can tell you right now, just based on, because we see what's happening and you see it, I don't know beyond it, my folks would not still be there, period.
Yeah, that's a good point. The nursing home industry, you can read about it. There's a lot of articles and studies devoted to this. It's easy to find online about why the nursing homes are in the condition they're in right now. The changes in business, it really started in the 1990s when hedge fund managers bought nursing home companies and then turned it into profit-oriented businesses, which, sure, there's good times for profit. I mean, that's it. We're a free market society, but they became owned by other companies out of state versus locally owned or locally run businesses when they were profit oriented, and many were nonprofit. And you can track the changes in nursing home injuries from the time that the hedge fund managers started buying them, because if you think about it, it really makes perfect sense. The more profit you make by the less staff you have in the facility, or the less money you pay the staff in the facility, there's no getting around that. So if you're trying to reap greater profits by reducing the number of staff working in a nursing home facility, that's going to increase the risks that nursing home residents get injured. And that's precisely what's been happening for about the last 25 years.
Wow. All right, let's take another phone call for you. We've got one from Rob. Rob, good morning. Hi, Rob. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Sure. Go ahead, sir.
That law he was talking about, that qualified immunity law, that goes back to 1982. And it applies to the public officials and the police themselves. And I don't blame any industry that wants to be under that law, to the extent that even some of our legislators own some of these nursing homes or own interest in these nursing homes. So they're naturally going to want to use that law to protect themselves. The next thing that'll be coming out will be unions in nursing home unions forms, because those two things are what are protecting the police and making them so corrupt. Their union, if they want to, instead of defunding the police, get rid of the unions. And when it comes to the police and when it comes to public jobs like teachers and stuff like that, the public has to defend themselves against the unions. And it's not and the unions are what's protecting the corrupt officials and the corrupt police.
What about Rob? Rob, what about the unions? Maybe those taking a stand for the employees against the corrupt employers, or are no employers corrupt and bad? Or are they all good?
What about just getting rid of the unions completely and let the unions be the people rather than having the unions at all?
Okay, well, that's getting off base a bit, but with regard to unions and protections, and you can debate that, but I mean, he made a lot of big jumps there. And unions in Tennessee, there's not much of them anyway in this state, as you well know, Clint. Well, I don't know that has a bearing on whether or not you have qualified immunity.
Let me speak to that, Nick. Rob gave the Republican argument. Thank you, Rob, for the Republican argument, the Rush Limbaugh argument. Let me tell you, though, there are no unions in nursing homes. Let me say it again, Rob. No unions in nursing homes. People are getting sick. People are getting infected through negligence in nursing homes, and there are no unions involved. I can't speak to the police context. I mentioned qualified immunity simply for the purposes that's what they want to do for businesses, give them immunity. But you're talking about giving immunity to a business, nursing homes and hospitals, where the workers are not unionized.
Listen, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll continue our conversation. The phone line's open, 737-7587. For Clint Kelly, more right after this.